We are in the Ohio Valley in the tri-state area, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio. We're going to go to some iconic places that are on the National Register of Historic Places. The first one on our list is the Suspension Bridge in Wheeling, West Virginia that goes across to Wheeling Island. So we're going to take one of the oldest suspension bridges in the country. We're going to take a tour across the bridge, and then we're going to hit some other very interesting historic places. As I said, they are on the National Register of Historic Places. One of the places we're going to visit is even a national landmark. So join me on this trip on the Ohio River. All these beautiful places we're going to today are on the Ohio River. So let's take this view in. It's a beautiful view. Believe it or not, what they learned by building this suspension bridge in Wheeling, what they learned from this bridge, they put into the Brooklyn Bridge. They were able to learn and make the Brooklyn Bridge better and safer. The cut brownstone, it's never going to happen again in America. The stonemasons that cut this old brownstone, they're not here anymore, and quite frankly, Americans are not up for the job for cutting stone anymore. Our next place on the historic places on the National Register is the Stone Viaduct. This is across the river in Bellaire, Ohio, on the Ohio side. Now the rest of the places we're going to visit today are going to be on the Ohio side, but all along the Ohio River. This stone viaduct was even used in a movie. I believe it was Denzel Washington. What was the name of that movie? It was either Unstoppable, or I keep on getting it confused with Runaway. It was about a train. Denzel Washington was in a train, and I always get it confused with Runaway, but I believe the movie was called Unstoppable. Don't hold me to it. But this B&O Stone Viaduct is what brought people to the Ohio Valley. So here we have, this is our second place on the list, the Stone Viaduct. Now, it's hard to believe, but this bridge is not really a national landmark because there are 2,500 national landmarks. But it is on the National Register of Historic Places, and there are 90,000. 90,000. What qualifies to be a national landmark? Well, what qualifies is you could either be a building, you could be a district, you could be an object, you could be a site or a structure. Now, one of the last places we're going to go to is actually a boat. And that's the only national landmark on our trip today. And how ironic is it that all these, even this beautiful historic bridge, yes, it should be a historic landmark. It's here for everybody to see. But the only historic landmark on our list today is a paddlewheel towboat that we're going to go to at the end of the video, and quite frankly, it's not even available to the public, but we're going to get a very good glimpse of it. Before we go to the next historic place, let's listen to the waterfalls to get us there. So how beautiful is that, the sound of running water, falling water off of this hill. So we're going to go up the hill overlooking the Ohio River. And if you look closely, you'll actually see that waterfall on the left-hand side. We're going to Belleview Heights. Did you catch how they spelled Bellevue Heights on the old antique sign there? It's spelled a little different. It doesn't have the E on it. If you go to the National Register of historic places, which this house, we're going to go up there and look at this house. It's on the list, and they spell it with an E. After the bell is an E. So the spelling is a little different. You know, believe it or not, 200 years ago they spelled things different, or 100 years ago they spelled things different than they did today. So we're going to walk up these stairs. I mean, this is probably, to be honest with you, I enjoy walking up these old antique stone stairs and this stone structure on the side of the hill. I enjoy this better than looking at the house. But this is part of the estate. As you can see, we're overlooking the Ohio River. So I will leave you with a little bit of peace and quiet as we walk up these old antique stone-cut stairs. Enjoy the trip as we go up there to see the Belleview Heights estate, the mansion. And the house at the top of the hill is on the National Register of Historic Places. So let's take a walk up the hill. So here we are, we made it to the top of the hill. What beautiful stone steps those were. And we're overlooking the Ohio River. What a beautiful view. And here we have it, the beautiful Bellevue Estate. As I've said 100 times already, this estate, this beautiful house, is on the National Register of Historic Places. So now the next one on our list, this one's a little bit more controversial. The next place we're going to go to, as I've said before, is actually a historic national landmark. Now all the places I have showed you up to this point, they are not technically national landmarks. They're on the National Register, but as I said, there's only 2,500 national landmarks in the country. And half of them are actually privately owned. Now, to try to find this, I say try, because earlier I said we were going to get a good glimpse of it. Actually, I made a mistake. We're not really going to get a good glimpse of it. Actually, we're going to barely get a glimpse of it because it's hidden in a secret location on the Ohio River. And you have to, well, it's kind of difficult to find it. Matter of fact, I would not recommend even trying because you're not going to find it. But I went down the old railroad tracks. Look at that old cement building there on the side of the railroad tracks. I believe that's where the railman sat in there with the light, or maybe he was a transfer guy switching the tracks from tracks to tracks. But here we are down on the railroad tracks, and this is where I had to go to just barely get a glimpse of our next historic Well, it's a towboat. It's an antique paddle wheel towboat. It went into service in 1923 for Standard Oil Company. Back in 1923, they called this towboat the Standard because it went into service for the Standard Oil Company. It used to push gasoline up and down the Ohio River. Most of the barges, most of the towboats on the Ohio River push barges that have coal in it, but I believe the Standard, and now they even call it the Donald B, more on that later, but I believe the old towboat pushed gasoline up and down the Ohio River from 1923 to 1940. In 1940, it was given a new name. It's the Donald B. Now here it is. We're getting a glimpse of it. You see right through the chain link fence there, the white structure. You can barely see it. It's underneath the that blue sign there. You're getting a better look. See that white structure that almost looks like a top of a towboat? Well, that's what it is. That's the Standard. And now, like I say, in 1940, they changed the name to the Donald B. But that's it.